Let's get right to our panel now. Joining us is Angela Rye, political strategist and principal of Impact Strategies, Ryan Grimm, Washington bureau chief for the Huffington Post, and MSNBC contributor Jonathan Capehart of the Washington Post. Angela, it's only the middle of February 2013, and we've already got a slurry of individuals, Bobby Jindal, Marco Rubio, Rand Paul, Paul Ryan. But as far as Jindal goes, he seems to be having a hard time convincing voters in his own state. He only gets something like 37% of people in Louisiana who want to support him. So what do you think his prospects are to begin with?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's a really bad idea to kind of poll or test policies on your state, not paying attention to what really matters to the folks and the residents of Louisiana. So I think that he really has to get a better handle on what his state cares about right now. It's not school vouchers. It's not this new tax proposal he has. It's the things that immediately matter, like what's happening with the economy. I have no idea what Bobby Jindal is doing, but he's a little off base here.
Right, okay, that's a fair condemnation. Jonathan, Paul Ryan says that he truly, honestly doesn't know if he's going to run for president in 2016. If that's the case, though, then maybe he should tell his friends, because one of them recently told Politico, and I'm quoting, that Ryan has no interest in the sheer grind of campaigning. It's hard to see him having what it takes. Now, Jonathan, if that's how his friends are talking about him now, what will his enemies say if Mr. Ryan does decide to throw his hat in the ring?
Well, they will say much worse, but of all the people we've been talking about as potential candidates for 2016, Congressman Paul Ryan is the one who, has a legitimate claim to run. He was the former Republican vice presidential nominee. He's incredibly young, very smart, has his budget plan that's been passed twice and ignored, an equal number of times.
And derided by virtually every economist who says the math doesn't add up. But now he's going to reduce the deficit and achievements, not in 30, but in 10 years. But carry on.
Right, and also add $6 trillion to the deficit.
That's a nice one.
Leave that aside.
Right.
He is the former vice presidential nominee of the party, so he has a claim on running if he wants to run. And because he's so young, he could wait until maybe 2024 if he wanted to. He doesn't have to go in 16.
This is very true. Ryan, what about Marco Rubio, the so-called savior of the Republican Party, according to Time magazine? The player, according to the National Journal. Given his performance at the State of the Union last week, is anyone in the future going to be able to refer to Senator Rubio in such terms without perhaps a dollop of irony, maybe?
Well, I think he can get over that. What he's going to have a much harder time getting over is his record as a politician in the state of Florida. And when that stuff starts to bubble up, it just won't allow him to be a national figure.
You don't mean, for example, Ryan, supporting Rick Scott in suppressing the vote, do you?
You don't even have to go that far. It's just basic level stuff such as earmarking money to FIU and then taking an unadvertised $69,000 job with FIU, earmarking money to the very law firm where he was working, earmarking money to places he then went on to represent as a lobbyist himself. He set up his own lobby firm. There's all kinds of dicey stuff that just lends itself to 30-second commercials and is the precise kind of pay-to-play stuff that can really damage somebody in a Republican primary, especially with people who look much more squeaky clean, like Christie and Jindal. Those folks, those are like McCain-level reform-type folks, so they're going to be able to hammer him on this basic issue of ethics.
Yes, we very much look forward to that. Angela, what about Rand Paul? He's got a ready-made constituency lined up for 2016 on the basis of his father. What do you think of him? Doesn't he have the best rationale for running?
Well, I don't know if he does or if he doesn't. Here's what I do know. I know that Rand Paul has now become the poster boy for Tea Party politics, and Tea Party politics are going away very quickly. Forget 2016. For 2014, the Republicans have a party if they don't undergo a serious reformation like the church had to do in the earlier days. They have a major, not only messaging problem, not only a branding problem, but a policy problem. Most of the country doesn't see eye to eye with the rest of these potential candidates.
Jonathan, what do you think of Rand Paul's possibilities?
I don't. I agree with Angela. Overall, Rand Paul...
This is very disappointing. You've knocked every single one of them down. I put them all up. I mean, they can hardly complain. We give them airtime. We try and promote them. And you guys just eviscerate each one of them. One's corrupt. The other's hopeless and got no ideas. The other one was a disastrous vice presidential run at the election. I mean, where are we going?
somewhere else.
Look, and Angela is absolutely right. The Republican Party doesn't just have a messaging problem, it has a policy problem. And Rand Paul is on the far right of a party that is to the right of where the country is. Republicans like to say, especially after the last election, the last midterm election, that this is a, quote, center-right nation. But as we saw with the 2012 election, it's not a center-right nation. If anything, it is center-left or left-of-center nation, but certainly squarely in the center, and the Republican Party is far to the right of that.
Okay, well, I think I have the answer, Ryan. How about Dr. Ben Carson? Now, he's really raised his profile among conservatives by attacking the president on healthcare and taxes. Let's find out what he says about a possible future run. Take a listen, Ryan.
Are you going to get into politics?
It's not my intention to do that. But as I always say in every part of my life, I'll leave that up to God.
That sounded far from ruling it out. Thank you very much, Dr. Ben Carson. Appreciate your time.
Ryan.
Hey, you know, far be it for me to predict the future, but to me it seems like a sign of some serious desperation if they're gravitating around a person who has never held any public office, and nobody has ever heard of them up until, you know, a couple of weeks ago. So, you know, I just don't see how this becomes a presidential campaign by 2016. But what it goes to show is that our analysis of the other four that we talked about, most of the Republican base agrees with it, that those are not national figures. And so, you know, they know who it is that wants 2016, and they've decided that those folks just don't have a shot at it, and so maybe this is the guy.
Is it possible, Angela, that God may speak to Dr. Carson and persuade him to go ahead?
I think God can speak to anyone, but the last thing I know about Dr. Ben Carson, to Ryan's point, I actually do know who he is. Gifted Hands is a wonderful book. I'm sure it was a better movie. I didn't see it. But I am not sure about his future in elected office. I wish him the best in whatever he decides to do, but they just need to get together and work. Maybe they need another retreat.
Yes, okay. Angela Rye, Ryan Grimm, and Jonathan Capehart, you've destroyed them all, but thank you all. Coming up, the Ashley Judd for Senate rumors keep on.